This week's episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is proudly brought to you by Gunner Kennels. Engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind, the G1 Kennel has set a new industry standard and put Gunner Kennels in a category all its own. Gunner Kennels was started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything they do. Gunner Kennels are dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market. Man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at www.gunnerkennels.com. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 89. This week on the show, we're joined by Ira McCauley of Habitat Flats and founder of Mow Marsh. All right, welcome to the 89th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We are your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. Make sure you check us out at hpoutdoors.com. You can find us across all of the social media platforms out there. If you're on Facebook, check out our Facebook listeners group. If you are new to the show, you can catch up on all of our past episodes anywhere good quality podcast content can be found. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Store, all of the good stuff. Catch it there. If you'd like to win yourself a Sitka Hudson jacket, make sure you head over to our listeners group on Facebook to find out how. And joining me this week, as he does every week, is Dan Harushka. Dan, what's up?
Not too much, man. Excited to talk to you.
Yeah, man. Likewise. We got a great show coming up with this week. We're joined by Ira McCauley, and this week is brought to you by Hunt Hickory Creek. Hunt Hickory Creek is Kansas's premier deer, turkey, and waterfowl outfitter, now offering waterfowl hunts in southeast Kansas and their new lodge in central Kansas. If you want to book the hunt of a lifetime, visit their website at www.hunthickorycreek.com or follow them on Facebook and Instagram to see what they have to offer for your Kansas trip of a lifetime. I also like to thank Camp Chef, Black Rifle Coffee Company, and Southern Oak Kennels for their support of this week's episode. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you head over to hpoutdoors.com. Check out our discount codes tab, where you can find out how to save 10% on your purchase at Dunn Sporting Goods, 15% off of your first order at Black Rifle Coffee Company, 10% off your order with White Rock Decoys, and also receive a discount on a custom HP Outdoors duck or goose call from 737 Duck Call. So all of that information is on our website under the discount code. Make sure you check that out, save a little money. Also check out our store while you're there. We've got some great HP Outdoor hats available for sale if you haven't been able to pick up yours yet. All right, Dan, what's good in the hood this week, man?
Freedom. Let it ring. What are you doing? What are you cooking for July 4th?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I don't think I'm going to do anything particular because I've gone back-to-back weeks now on the smoker. Did brisket 2 weeks ago, and I did a pulled pork this past week that ended up going 13 and a half hours. And it kind of wore me out because I had people coming over to the house at 2 o'clock. And so I was up at 2:30 in the morning, setting up the smoker, getting it ready. And it still took 13 and a half hours. So I didn't get to pull it off when I wanted to. Ultimately, it turned out great, but it took a long time. So I'm a little bit worn out from that. So maybe just some standard grilling, or if I do anything on the smoker, maybe I'll do some ribs or something like that doesn't take quite as long.
That sounds pretty good.
What about you, though?
I think we're having a lot of family and my dad's cousins from Texas, and a lot of their families coming up. So I think we're going to have like 20 some people, and I think it's going to be a burger hot dog type deal. But
nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
Dude,
it's
nothing says America like hot dogs on the grill. Believe you me.
Yep.
Love a good dog on the grill.
So, it's all good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I'm actually looking forward to just having a little bit of a break. It's been a really busy time right now with just sports and work and everything else. And, it's just nice to be able to kind of unplug for a minute and just sort of enjoy some time off. So hopefully the weather will be nice, maybe get to the pool a little bit. But yeah, looking forward to just a little bit of relaxation. It's kind of what I got on the docket.
I'm not going to lie. I always look forward to holidays that especially are on Mondays or Fridays, just to extend that weekend, and hitting on Wednesday just kind of, it's just like, oh man, yeah, it's still a day off, and that's actually when everyone's coming over, so it's, it's not a day off when you host 20 people, but it's still not work, so it should be fun, but I definitely enjoy those 3 or 4 day weekends if you can plan them out. I guess I'll look forward to next year and come July.
Yeah. I got to be honest with you too, man. I'm kind of feeling a little more energetic towards waterfowl season now than I recall being at this point last year. I remember last year being kind of not super excited about September for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why that is. But I do know that this year it seems like the summer is kind of going faster. And I'm a little more excited than I had been in a year or so ago. So that's kind of helping me right now a little bit. Got me kind of fired up and looking forward to getting back in the saddle. So not sure why.
Man. I think I just wanted to drop another thank you to the all the sponsors that have been behind us this year, and not just the sponsors, but all of our long-time listeners and our new listeners, because we have, we just keep growing and growing, and this is for being the off season. This month, obviously, we're not in July yet as we're recording, but this will be out in July. But this is one of our best months ever in the last 4 years. So, for being an off season, end of June, and our numbers are blown up. So it's good to see, and definitely excited. That might be pushing the excitement a little bit, and everything that we have planned for this coming year is also awesome. So
yeah, and I don't think you're wrong there, because I'll tell you, this is just some true talk here. I had friends over on Sunday of last week, so it'll be almost, obviously this is being recorded on Tuesday, the 26th of June. So it'll be 2 weeks by the time this comes out or whatever. But I had friends over. They stayed till like 9:30 on Sunday night. I had to clean up, tear the deck furniture down, all that kind of stuff, get the smoker squared away. So I didn't get to start editing the podcast until like, I don't know, it was like 11:30. And in past years, when we weren't working with sponsors and things like that, I can guarantee you that podcast would have not been edited that night. But, because we've got obligations and stuff to meet, I did it. And I'm actually really glad that I did. And, I do owe a bit of thank you to those folks, because they're helping me stay motivated to continue to do something that once it's done, I really do enjoy. It's just in the moment, all I'm thinking about is going to sleep. So, it was good to power through that, and I'm glad that we did. And, they're helping us keep up with the weekly grind. And we've got a ton of really good interviews coming up. I'm pretty excited about that too. Makes life easy when you've got great people coming on the show with tons of experience and a lot of information to share. It's just,
you want to know what I'm not excited about?
No.
Well, I'm glad that we don't do like a live video, because I just had a pen explode in my hands and now I have black ink all over the place. So this is going to be fun to sit here for a while. But anyway.
Okay. Maybe you could rub it on your power alleys and do some camouflaging.
Is there my new hairline?
I'm not going to lie. You posted a picture of yours and then I posted a picture of mine. I think maybe my hair's a little bit longer, but I think you got me beat right now.
My power alleys?
Yeah.
Well, dude, that's what I said. I've had this hairline since I was little. I need to put up a baby picture, because I've been known as the receding hairline baby since I came out of the womb and had some hair on my head. So
you're just born.
I haven't been dropping back too much, but it is getting a little thin in the middle. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that mine's not thinner. I'm just saying on just strictly coverage, I think I got you. I might not have a lot of coverage, but I got a little bit of coverage.
The amount of comments with Power Alley involved this last week was incredible.
Yeah, it was a lot. So that was good times. But anyway, let's shift gears. Let's shift gears a little bit, and because we got a really cool interview this week, and I don't know how many people are familiar with Ira because, when you think of like Habitat Flats, for example, you typically see Tony kind of running a lot of the management on the farms and a lot of the brand ambassador for them and that kind of stuff. So a lot of people don't know that there's multiple owners and that Ira's, a major player there. And then also, a lot of people know what Mow Marsh is, but they may not know who the man is behind the company and all that kind of stuff. So, it's really cool to talk to someone who's been part of multiple businesses that have kind of come from nothing, starting nothing at ground zero and building it their way and having success, and just talking to him about that experience and what he's learned and how he's seen the industry change and all of that kind of stuff. It was really cool to get with Ira on. So let's welcome Ira to the show and catch up with him. All right. Joining us this week on the show is a guy that is no stranger to the waterfowl industry and duck hunting in general, and provides just a really unique insight into sort of where the waterfowl industry and hunting has come from and where it's going. So we're excited to welcome Ira McCauley to the show this week. Ira, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm good, but with an intro like that, a guy starts to realize that he's no youngster anymore.
Oh, come on. I know you got your hands full with a lot going on, so I'm sure that runs you a little ragged, but it seems like you're still getting around and getting, still pounding on the ducks every year, so it doesn't seem like you're slowing down quite yet.
No, man, none of us, including I'm sure most of your listeners, it doesn't matter how tired you are or, what all's going on. You're going to dig deep even when it comes down to the years ticking by and, try to make better decisions and all that stuff just because you want to be a greedy duck hunter.
well, Ira, I want to first make sure that we give you, a proper introduction. In case folks don't know, Ira is a co-owner of Habitat Flats. He's known for being the founder of Mow Marsh, who's you've seen probably in the news here recently and social media and stuff for some big things happening there. So I think probably one of the first things I'd like to get into with you here, Ira, is before we get too much into the duck stuff, this episode is being released on Monday, July 2nd, 4th of July week. It's usually kind of one of those staple weeks for most guys, and it's usually right in the dog days of duck depression. And I know maybe you recently had a good experience on a hunt with your son that we'll probably get into here a little bit later. But you got any big plans for the 4th of July holiday?
Well, we're going down to Lake of the Ozarks because my son has a trap shooting competition down there. So we're going to be there Friday and Saturday. And then we're actually going up to our farms at Habitat Flats and Locust Grove up in Sumner. And, man, we're not going to do any huge improvement projects, but I'm sure we'll do plenty of work and find some time to have plenty of fun too.
So your son is he shoots quite. This is the son that went over with you on your recent trip.
Yes, he shoots trap, mainly singles, but he's going to be shooting some handicaps. So we'll go root him on there. I think he's a little bit better at shooting those orange targets than he is at shooting ducks that are going, from side to side, every different direction.
Well, I was just going to ask. So, if he's doing that much shooting, who's a better shot? Did you teach him well to he's the master now, or you still got him there?
Man, every once in a while he'll beat me at trap, and he sure tries to run it down when he does. But no, man, there's no doubt on the ducks. I still got his little butt. That's awesome. Probably not for much longer though.
Jeez.
So let me get started here with some of this stuff, Ira. And I kind of first want to jump into, we've had Tony on the show before talking about Habitat Flats and the operation that y'all got out there and everything like that. And recently I was watching the video that was done about you, and a lot of guys talking about kind of your background and how you got into it and sort of how Habitat Flats got started. And I couldn't help but wonder to myself, if you were to, in hindsight, look back and see, and were able to forecast what Habitat Flats would become as we know it today, how does that compare to what you all thought it was going to be at the time? I mean, was the plan to just get a piece of land with a group of friends, or was it something that you were really thought, this could be an opportunity where we could build something great and, really expand it to what we have come to know Habitat Flats to be today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is actually our 10th anniversary this year. So we formally organized Habitat Flats 10 years ago. And before that, my brother and I were doing like some corporate veterinary duck guiding. And before that, we'd guided waterfowl hunts for quite a while. And Tony was really doing, he and Tyson Keller had TNT Snow. So they were doing some guiding on the snow goose front. And we kind of started helping each other. And then, he and my brother kind of hatched the plan for Habitat Flats because there was a piece of real estate that we wanted to buy that wasn't even for sale. And so the initial business plan was put together to where we could hopefully just make enough money, even if we each had to chip in, some money to kind of finance this real estate deal. And so we went to the guy that owned it and made some crazy financing stuff happen with him. And man, he thought we were nuts. He thought we were gonna, he was gonna get his property back year 1 or 2, and we'd be out all this money. And anyone, could have been a bet in Vegas, man. Everyone would have bet against us. And but when you have people that are super passionate and hardworking and have a unified vision and all that stuff, man, you just never know what's possible. And that's what happened with Habitat Flats was that, we all shared a vision and we all shared a work ethic, and we were all very good people. We all got along with people well, and man, it just all worked out, really, honestly, beyond our wildest dreams. And Tony's been our manager for the majority of that time, and he's done a great job of driving the business and of being a great representative for our brand, that's for sure.
So did you have some property already there before you made that purchase, or was this just you kind of knew where you wanted to be and went and bought that?
Well, we all owned our own property before Habitat Flats, so we all kind of kicked in the unique things that we had to the business, and we all had regular jobs, so none of us needed any money out of it. So, for the first long time, we all just, contributed our property, contributed our time, and all that stuff to really make the business healthy. And I think, when I look at all of my businesses, it's so important in the beginning to make sure that you treat the business fairly, to give it a good chance to be healthy and get on its feet and all that stuff. And, the other thing people ask us about some is, I think a lot of people are under the impression that we're like, wealthy kids that came from wealthy backgrounds and we did things that other people wouldn't be able to do. And that's certainly not the case. None of us, we didn't have any money and we really, didn't have a whole lot of banking experience or anything else at the time. And so, it's not like we had any advantage that anyone that had a halfway decent paying job, would have had, we didn't have anything that they wouldn't have,
Right. And I think, one thing that you said, between you and Tony and your brother, like, you're good people, you're good dealing with people. And that's something that I think Josh and I can agree on. The most of the people that we talk to that are running their business, whether it be a guide or a product or something like that, like the people in the waterfowl industry, there are some very, very cool men and women that either own companies or represent companies. And that's something that I think looking looking into the industry, for like being an outsider when we first started the show, to getting to know some of these people on a deeper level, like it's really cool how personable some of these guys are. And even, getting a message from you and I said, good luck on your trip over there. You're like, I'll shoot one for you. And then getting to follow you over, and, you sending me a message right when you got back. All right, let's do this. So, it's just, we appreciate that. And it's really cool to see that as someone that really isn't in the industry, so to speak. So, just really, really cool from my point of view.
Yeah, man, that's neat to hear, but that's true. We're all just regular old people, and like when we're looking for guides, we get so many resumes and requests and all that stuff, and there's a lot of people that can blow a call well and aren't scared to get up in the morning and have a good work ethic and all that stuff, but it's so important that you're a good communicator. You can carry on a conversation, because anybody can be a good duck guide when the hunting's good. The guys that really shine are the guys that can keep people entertained and that can have a good time and a positive attitude, even when it's slow, And so that's not only a great character trait in a duck guide, but in people in general in life, right?
Yeah, and
No doubt about it.
I can't help but think about this too when I look at the success that you all have had at Habitat Flats. I'm curious, because you said you'd been guiding before, and Tony and all those guys have been doing their stuff before. So you get started in this, and you celebrate. You look back 10 years now. How has that business changed? Like, how has running a guide service and what Habitat Flats is? I feel like today there is just a lot more challenges and things to overcome. I mean, for example, one of the biggest things you hear about when you talk about duck hunter retention and things like that is access to properties and things like that. And, that's one challenge that as a waterfowler, you kind of have at their mercy, in the sense that, you can build it, but if you bang on them every day in the same spots, that's going to have an impact long term. So, you gotta adjust, and you gotta go through all of these things. And I'm just curious to know, like, for you guys, how have you felt the change in the in waterfowl hunting over that 10-year period? And maybe what are a thing or two that's kind of stuck out to you that's been like, this really had to make us shift the way we operated, or something like that kind of has allowed you to continue to sort of elevate and raise the level of the business that you guys have?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you kind of have to separate ducks from geese a little bit, because you really can't manage for geese very well. I mean, other than having access to lots of property and lots of relationships and trying to foster those and keep them well, which can be a challenge when you're running a commercial business. But on the duck side, it's like any other real estate investment, and really Habitat Flats to some degree is a real estate investment company, and has been since the beginning. And it's all about location, and about, you got to have a good location, and then you got to have a great commodity there for birds, right? And so, we try to buy pieces of property that are in really good locations, and then do a great job of managing those so that we've got a resource that you can pound on, over and over and over again. And we try to, we do it smart. We hunt them where they live enough to keep them honest, but then we're hunting them in traffic spots where they really don't live, and we're just trying to talk them into coming to the call, and and so we kill most of our ducks. Like, when you look at all the numbers, when it's all said and done, most of our ducks are killed in spots they're not going to, and they'd never go to if you weren't in there hunting. And we kill less than half where they're actually piled up, and we're managing to feed them, and we're killing them in other spots that are good traffic spots, but crappy hunting spots.
Oh man, I feel like we should do a full episode on running traffic then. But no, so how can you pull the blind back a little bit and tell us about how many acres you guys have within Habitat Flats?
Well, I mean, that's a crazy kind of question, because Habitat Flats proper owns about 1,400 acres. And then, the partners all on ground as well that we hunt on, right, which is probably another couple thousand acres. And then, just for example, we lease 17,000 acres from one individual.
Wow.
So, we've got lots of access to a lot of different places, and I obviously don't hunt it all every day at the same time, but, it's a lot of it's about diversity and just having the things that you need when you need them, even if you don't use a lot of that stuff even every year. We may go 2-3 years and not hunt a place, and then all of a sudden, given the circumstances for that year, it's what you need quite a bit.
Mm. Yeah, and it's just it's hard to fathom, because Dan and I are both East Coast guys, and we're scrapping for wildlife management areas, and where I live, I'm dealing with blind laws and things with all this and that. And just to think about having access to that amount of property it's just really hard for me to sort of comprehend and kind of wrap my head around. And having access to hunt it is one thing, but having the ability to manage it all and kind of farm for ducks to the level you all do, I mean, that's got to be just a significant undertaking to be able to keep that stuff, ready to go year in and year out. So you have it as something.
Oh yeah, man. Leverage. I mean, like this year, we haven't flooded, which I never remember, not once. I never remember it's not flooding, and God knows it's not over. We can still flood. But some years, Sonny plants corn 4 times before it gets over ankle tall, and a lot of years we end up, not in all our stuff, but, we have all different types of ground. And, some are unprotected stuff. There's a lot of years where it's kind of all for naught, because it floods late or whatever. But it's definitely a lot of work. That's for sure.
It's pretty cool that, I just did an episode with my brother and talking about our history and kind of the learning curve that we went through a little bit. But, I believe you and your brother are both vets, right? And Habitat Flats too. So maybe give us a little insight into your childhood and how you guys developed such a good relationship. Because, you talk to a lot of business people and they say, don't have a partner and don't go in business with your family. But here you are, like, really successful in these two aspects of your life, and I just find that super cool to hear about and read about.
Yeah, it's definitely not normal. When we grew up hunting in Texas and Louisiana. Really was where we kind of cut our teeth on waterfowl hunting. But we lived for the most part in Charleston, South Carolina, and man, my parents, they have selective memory on some of this stuff, but Aaron and I would ride our bicycles when we were like, I was 10 and he was 8, and we'd ride our bicycles through town with our shotguns just outside Houston to go waterfowl hunting. We'd spend all day out there, and we'd come back with our birds on our bikes and, our shotguns on our handlebars, and man, it's just crazy. You'd go to jail if you did some of the stuff that we did as kids. We had our own boat when we were that same age, and we'd take turns pulling each other hydrosiding on the Ashley River, and, there are alligators and everything else. And Mom would bring us lunch, and she'd come pick us up in the afternoon. So we kind of, man, it's such a crazy different world from what our kids have now. I mean, they're plugged into electronics and kind of an inside generation, and we were never inside ever, and we did everything together outside. And, we didn't live in like a subdivision where there were lots of other kids. We had each other, and we were very involved in competitive swimming, and that's about as antisocial of I'm not even going to call it a sport, I'll say an activity as you could ever have. And so, you stare at a black line on a white pool bottom for hours on end every day. And so, man, we just kind of grew up, being each other's friends and doing a lot of stuff together. And they just kind of always stayed that way.
Yeah, that's That's funny because I was watching the video that was done. I think saw it on Facebook that talked a lot about you growing up and stuff, and had your brother on there, and I literally laughed out loud because someone on that video referred to your brother as Aaron, and
Oh yeah,
that cracked me up, man. I was wondering if we would get a Balake or Jay Quellen on there maybe, but no, that was hilarious. But it got me thinking,
right.
Have you guys had those points where it's like, I have to imagine where it's like, being in business, you come to those times when it's like, you're at an impasse almost, and you're disagreeing on something. And, I was always curious, how do you overcome that? And how do you, keep it so that, hey, business is the business, but we're still going to meet on Sunday after church and the families are going to have dinner kind of thing. Like, how do you not cross that line and really sort of allow that to impact sort of the bigger picture of things?
And we've never really had any huge problems with that. I'm not going to say that we didn't have little bumps in the road here and there, but I mean, for the most part, when it comes to money and the things that, you might feel like you're not getting a fair squeeze or whatever on, heck, if there's anybody that you'd rather feel that way about and not worry about it, it's your brother, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think we're both pretty good at letting the little stuff just kind of roll off our backs and not worry about it. And the big stuff we talk about, and, heck, it's easy to get on the same page. So we've never really struggled there, honestly. We've been fortunate.
That's awesome. So, all right. So this is your 10-year anniversary for Habitat Flats. So, congrats with that. And I guess I know Josh wanted to get into kind of your role with product development and Mow Marsh and how that all got started. So, when did that start? And we can go start to finish and where you're at now with it.
Right. So this year is Habitat Flats' 10-year anniversary, but believe it or not, it's actually Mow Marsh's 20-year anniversary. So back in 1995, I graduated from vet school and I started building little rudimentary boats with a buddy of mine, Ben Gallup, way back then when I first got out of school. And, a lot of people today can't even fathom it, but there was no internet back then, and there really weren't any computers that were like what people think of today, no cell phones, none of that. So we actually had to go to the library, which I think a lot of people may have heard of those in today's world, but we had to go check out books on how to fiberglass. And, it's such a different world. I won't go into it all, but things were way more difficult back then as far as figuring things out, finding parts, sourcing products. All that was just so much harder back then. And so anyway, it all started out building boats that kind of met our need, and that kind of developed into, marsh boats becoming the niche that was what I founded Mow Marsh on. So had the original Fat Boy and then added a couple more styles as we went along. And, the whole goal for those boats was to start at point A with all your crap and get your boat in the water, go to wherever you were hunting, throw all your decoys out, shut your doors, lay down, and be comfortable and concealed. And then obviously you were mobile because you got to where you were going. So that was kind of the three key words that I felt like were the important foundation for Mow Marsh to be founded on were comfort, concealment, and mobility. And so that's kind of the foundation that we built everything else on. Although we've got some other ancillary items now that are not strictly dealing with that type of stuff, but all the blinds are that way. And heck, you think about it, what are the keys to success? Well, that's it right there when it comes to duck hunting, right? Got to be where they want to be. You got to be hidden. You need to be comfortable.
Yeah. I got to be honest with you. We got a listeners group on Facebook, about, it's over 3,800 guys in there, guys and girls. And, occasionally people will be asking for recommendations and things like that. And, almost without fail, when the recommendation comes up about dog blinds, I mean, Mow Marsh is the first name that people, post. And then it's like, everyone after that, it just seems like they're just all, yep, that's what we use. That's what we use, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just curious, like how, because dog blinds is it's not like they're, it's something that, it's a competitive space, just like building boats. I mean, everything that you're doing here is competitive. And I'm just curious as to how's the thought process go when you say, okay, we're going to bring a product to market and it's going to fit this niche, and we know it's got to be great because there's other options out there. Like, how does the development cycle for something like that work? And, how does it feel now to look back and know that product, now that it's on the market, is so highly regarded by hunters, all over the world?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, geez, we could have probably a 2-hour conversation about just that. But, first of all, you got to have the idea, right? So you identify a need for something that you feel like is going to be, going to fill a niche and be something that's of great value to a hunter to make their experience better. In this case, the dog's experience better. And then, like in the case of the Invisalab, we've got utility patents on quite a few of our products, and that's one that we have it on. So, it was unique enough. The idea was unique enough that we could protect the whole idea, right? So we didn't just go out and say, well, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to copy that. It was something that hadn't been done before. And so that's why you don't see any other Invisalabs that are out there. So, you have the idea, so that's one thing. And then you try to protect the idea if you can. And then, you try to find the right combinations to make that product come to life. And sometimes that's easy. Sometimes not. Sometimes the projects that I think will be easy are very difficult. And sometimes the projects that I think will be difficult really are pretty easy. And then you got to be able to do it at a price point that people don't find repulsive. And, you have to have distribution, and there's a ton of different variables that come into play. But the Invisalab has definitely been just a really, really good product for us. And I think when I first started thinking about Mow Marsh, and kind of shifting gears away from boats and into other items, I sat down and I said, okay, we've got all these on the X products for dry field hunting, but there's really not that same category of products for an aquatic type situation. And so I was like, I'd really like to make some products that allowed guys to be more mobile and concealed in an aquatic situation. And then we ended up going even a step further by making those versatile enough to work in field settings or in aquatic settings and be mobile and concealed in both of those things. And so, you start looking at value propositions, and there's just a lot there for guys, they can get a lot of bang for their buck.
One thing that kind of I've been thinking about while you were talking is, coming up with new ideas, and obviously you have to be in the field. So, when you were saying, you used to drive around on your bicycle with shotguns and how it's different, and how kind of the new generation is a lot of, just plugged in on their phone and whatnot. How do you think innovation in the future is going to come about for hunting sports? Like, if guys didn't grow up like that and don't spend as much time in the field, they'd rather be on their phone. Do you think that's going to be an issue moving forward, say in like 10 or 20 years? Or do you think that, there's enough people that are still dialed in that won't be a problem?
Man, that's a good question. I really don't know. I mean, I'm looking at my little bitty window into what's going on with society. And, we're not really in like the city. So, that's a whole different perspective on stuff. But I look at some of these kids that are my son's friends, and, man, they're still, pretty dialed into being outside and being active outdoors, and then others never. I mean, they might as well be vampires. They never see the sunshine. They probably have IV drips of vitamin D at some point, but I don't know. I'm hopeful that that they end up, at least some of them seeing the value in, all of the things that enjoying outdoors can bring to you as far as, fulfillment in your life and all that stuff. But that's a good question, man. I don't know that I have a great answer for you there. I think that when you really have to struggle to be successful at not everything, but at some things, I think it makes your passion and your appreciation for those things greater. And so I worry a little bit about, like, my sons just having it a little bit too easy and right there at their fingertips, and maybe not appreciating it to the degree that I would have, or like some of their friends that really don't have very good spots, and they're out there slugging it out, on the river, on the public ground or whatever. And, what success they have, they just appreciate very, very much. And I don't know, that chapter's yet to be written, but I think there's an argument to be made there that could sure happen. And, I think a lot of these kids too, there's so many things for them to do that if they've got to work really hard at something that's pretty foreign to them, they're probably just not going to give it the effort,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just the instant gratification that they do have at their fingertips versus, like you said, some of the things that you tried to build were, you thought it'd be easy, and it turned out to be not real easy. So, it seems like it's a lot easier to just give up and sink back into your phone a little bit. So that was just something that, made me think as you were talking there. So I had to bring that up.
Yeah. And, I don't know. My kids are still young, so I'm looking, of course, they're the ones that I care about. So I'm looking at what they're doing and what their friends are doing and all that stuff. And I'm sure as they get a little older, that'll change some. And, I think back and I'm like, good God, what was I like at 14? And yeah, I mean, I definitely was not looking for ways to go out there and rake the leaves. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, no doubt. I can relate to that. I wanted to jump back really quickly to what we were talking about with the dog blinds, because, as we were talking about, the Invisilab and trying to do something that hadn't been done before, one of the things that Dan and I are really big fans of and very supportive of is companies that get out and kind of push the envelope of what we think is, acceptable, duck hunting equipment. And, one of the most debated topics, and Lord knows, it's all over the internet, is, like Sitka, for example, and the waders that they're coming out with. Not to dive into those specifically, but what our point is, we like to see companies come out with new products that are innovative, because even if you don't want that product, or you can't afford that product, or you don't want to justify the cost of that product, what it does is it forces everybody else in the market to up their game and kind of step up and say, okay, what are we going to do to keep up, and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm curious, as someone who's brought product to market and sort of been involved in that process, are there any products that you recall throughout, your time with Mow Marsh and, Habitat Flats and just being around the industry? Is there a time when a product came to market that sort of caught everybody, off guard and was like, whoa, this is a game changer. Like, this is going to make a significant, tangible difference from day one when you start using it. Do you recall having products like that come out and sort of having that impact on you?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, how old are you guys?
I'm 35.
I'll be 35. November.
Okay, so I'm 48. So do you remember when there were no layout blinds and no spinners?
Yeah, I was
probably do.
I was going to bring up the spinning wing decoy thing for sure. That was definitely one that I can remember.
I remember hunting a lot, sitting on buckets.
Yeah, I mean, those were the two huge ones. So, I remember when there were no layout blinds, we'd just go lay underneath a piece of burlap, or there was actually fast grass back then. And I'd read about, spinning wing decoys. So I went to Walmart and bought some remote control cars and cut some, wings out of coroplast and put a piece of number 9 wire through the axles and stuck a couple of these things on a dirt clod out in the field. And I had 24 homemade silhouettes, and first bunch of ducks came over way, way up there. Everybody that's old has this story. And I hit the remotes on my remote control cars, and they came straight to the ground. And so, in the early years, everywhere we hunted was, we picked a location depending on where we could wire these cars up to. If we'd go find a stump sticking out of the water, or, put a couple of dirt clods on top of each other, stick it on top of a corn stalk or whatever. And so those were probably the two biggest ones that were really, really big deals, Obviously, there's been just tons and tons of smaller ones as far as, decoy look, decoy function, blind stuff. I'm trying to think here more recently. More recently, we've got a lot of the other ancillary motion stuff, like, water motion type stuff, like mallard machines and pulsators and flippy flappies and whatever all that stuff is, the pulley deals. And so, yeah, there's no doubt that a duck today is definitely incrementally smarter than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, or definitely more weary. One of the two. They've seen a lot of changes. There's no doubt about it. So, Josh, do you have any more innovation questions? Because I was going to ask just what kind of led you to the talks with Higdon, and where's that at now, and how are you still involved in it?
Sure. Can I say one more thing before we get to that?
Yeah.
It'll kind of touch on the New Zealand thing too. So, like I was saying, I think these ducks today are just so much smarter from all the contact, all the way around, and all the improvements. So spinning wing decoys, better calls, better decoys, better concealment. Guys that can stay out there longer because of better equipment. I think there's just a lot more hunter duck interactions, and they become incrementally smarter across the board. So, like, let's say you're hunting a WMA in Arkansas and spinners are outlawed. Well, that duck still, even if you're not using a spinner, he's had enough hunter encounters, more than he would have, let's say, 30 years ago, and he's just that much smarter across the board. And so, when we were in New Zealand there a couple of weeks ago, it was really cool to me because, man, all the birds were just so call responsive. And, we had a nice decoy spread, nothing extravagant, and we were hunting out of A-frames and, not super great concealment. But every time you'd blow the call, there was just an immediate response from those ducks. And the whole country made me feel like I'd gone back in time. Just everything was, like being in the U.S. 30 years ago. Not everything, but a lot of stuff. And certainly the way the birds were, was not just like what we see in North America today. We've got a lot more ducks, but their ducks definitely were more responsive to the tools and the hunter's bag of tricks.
That's pretty interesting to think that, all those ducks haven't seen all the spinners or whatnot, and they're that responsive to calls. That's, like you said, going back, and it makes me just immediately compare what the older generation of duck hunters used to be like to what we deal with now, which is, I'm sure that we could talk with a lot of different people and get a lot of different answers. But I guess I'll circle back and going back to Mow Marsh and a sale to Higdon, if you're open to talking about that and how you're still going to be involved.
Yeah. So on the sale to Higdon, like we've touched on here, I've got a lot of stuff going on. My wife was incrementally involved in Mow Marsh. She, for anyone out there who's a customer, if you had any sort of billing issues or, she did a whole lot of stuff and was very involved on the customer service side, and so are our employees too. But I don't know. I think the timing was pretty good, and our kids are getting older, and she had some points that, hey, she wanted me to free up some of my time to enjoy the years that are rapidly going by before they left. And man, you just can't argue with that, And so I had to do a lot of soul searching and ultimately decided to sell the business. And I had, the Higdon brothers are cool guys, man. We did a lot of communicating on the front side and talked about a lot of this stuff. So, my responsibilities with the company going forward are still the parts that I enjoy. So, I'm still, like tomorrow, I've got a 3-hour meeting on product development. We've got a whole bunch of new stuff in the works. And, so, we'll meet on that for several hours tomorrow. So I'm still very involved and still definitely the lead on, and I would imagine I will continue to be on the product development side. And then I'll still be, at least the plan is for me to be heavy on the promotional side of things and still, kind of the brand representative. And so, heck, I enjoy that part of it too immensely. I love hunting with Joe and testing our products out in different environments and trying to document some of that stuff and talking about what worked, what didn't work, why were we not successful, why were we successful, what could we have done better, how did the sunlight affect things, how did the wind affect things, all the, I spend a whole lot more time, probably like most people do. I spend a lot more time thinking about the days where I wasn't successful than I do about the days that I was successful, and trying to figure out, what really makes those things happen or not happen. Not that you can always control all that stuff, because you can't, but, the things that you can control or recreate, how do you go about identifying what those things are and trying to, set yourself up for success?
So having now seen, Mow Marsh through, a 20-year, life cycle to this point, to where you're willing to kind of, bring others in and sort of, free up some of your time for other things. Having been through all of that, is there anything when you look back over that and you thought, man, I wish I would have done this differently, or, not, I don't want to call it like a regret, because that's not it, but they always, this saying, right, hindsight's 2020. I know I can look back and say, man, I wish I would have done things differently. Is there anything with Mow Marsh specifically that you thought, kind of have with the benefit of hindsight, that you would have done differently?
Well, I think I always had my eyes both eyes open to the fact that it wasn't my only job, let's say. I had a lot of other things going on. So let's say that I had a dozen product ideas that I thought were, good. I still could only bite off so much, you know what I mean? So
right.
I'd pick 2 or 3 and try those, and we might only get 1 or 2 of them done. And so, if it had been my only gig, I would have been way, way more proactive and aggressive in getting a lot of that stuff done. And I think, partnering up, however you want to slice that, partnering up with somebody else that had more time and resources and capacity to say, oh, hell, you got 12 ideas. Well, let's do them all. I think that'll be great for the brand, and I think it'll be great for waterfowlers, and I think that we'll all ultimately get a whole lot of personal satisfaction out of that. And, that's another big reason that I was motivated to want to try and do it. So I'm not going to spill all the beans here, but I had a really aha moment back in 2012, and I spent quite a bit of money and a lot of time developing like a really, really, really cool design for a product that was just going to be like nothing that nobody had ever seen anything like it. And then we started getting into like the hows and whys and all that stuff, and it was going to require a huge amount of money and a huge amount of my time and a bunch of risk and all that. And I tabled it and said, dude, it's way too big. I can't do it. It's just more than I can handle. And so now we're circling back around to that product. And so, it's something that I tabled 6 years ago and never would have done, never would have looked at pursuing on my own. And now, it's something that's probably going to happen here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, hearing you talk, I think it sounds like Higdon's a great partner for this because, if anyone's been paying attention to what they've been doing over the last couple of years, they've just exploded their product lineup and really sort of innovated and even pushed the envelope a little further with their foam-filled decoys and some of the other stuff that they've done. And, they've really kind of, elevated themselves in the industry, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see, what they're able to do when partnered with you because, we've seen a lot of that type of growth that you're talking about, come from them on their product line that they've been working. So.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is really cool about partnering up with them is that, Mow Marsh is a total grassroots company, right? So we don't copy anyone's stuff. We don't knock anyone off. We're building stuff from the ground up and we're hardcore hunters. And Mow Marsh has truly been built on all that stuff. And the Higdon brothers, that company is not so big. I didn't want to sell it to someone that was like a big conglomerate because, if you look at the history of what happens to a lot of companies that get bought up by the huge outdoor groups, they just get lost in the shuffle and all of a sudden nothing matters anymore, and they just disappear. I could name you a half dozen examples right off the top of my head. And those guys, I don't think that's going to happen with them. It's too big a deal, but their passion runs pretty deep and all that stuff too. So, it's good to be with like-minded people and, two brothers. Obviously that is a familiar deal to me. And I really think that once everybody gets comfortable with and wraps their head around what their role is and all that, I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to think about. And even like you said, when those companies do, if they get bought up, a lot of the quality suffers. And I think that's one thing that Higdon and Mow Marsh are really proud of their products, just the quality of them. And compared to other companies, if something does go wrong, it's going to get fixed. And chances are, the quality is so high that you aren't going to have too many issues. So, I'm sure you did your due diligence with all that, and it's cool to see. And, we have a good history with Higdon and support them and run a lot of their products as well. So, congrats on that side of your life there. That's a big deal. And just thinking about my kids now, and you saying, you want to spend more time with them, and you're giving up your business baby to be with your real baby. So I commend you on that. And it's really cool to see you be able to step away and still be involved that heavily in it. So just really cool
man, like I said,
to hear you talk.
I didn't say it was easy now. I did not say it was easy, but every day that goes by, I get a little more comfortable with what my role is going to be and all that stuff. And so, I do think it'll be good in the long run. So, yeah, hopefully everybody in our community hopefully will benefit somehow, some way from the relationship at some point in time.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff, and definitely excited to see what's on the horizon for that partnership. And, I think Ira, at this point, man, I'd like to just talk a little bit here briefly, and, before we let you go here, I'd like you to just talk a little bit about maybe the upcoming hunting season, and you got any particular trips that you're looking forward to? I know Dan and I are in the process of planning out what we're going to do this year, and, one of the groups that we're in, one of the posts that people asked recently was what was some gear that we were looking forward to using for the first time. And honestly, the first thing that came to my mind is I'm just looking forward to hunting with people, friends that I've made, old friends that I haven't hunted with for a while, that kind of stuff. Is there anything that kind of, as you look forward to next hunting season, that you're kind of particularly looking forward to now that maybe you'll have a little more free time on your hands?
Man, I don't know. It's weird that you asked me that question because normally this time of year I'm just so hyper-focused on work and everything that's going on and kids, and it's just run. And people ask me about hunting season. I'm like, I'm not, I have no idea. I'm not even thinking about hunting season. But like this week, I don't know if it's because I just came back from New Zealand or what, but I'm like, I can't wait for it to be hunting season. I mean, I'm totally excited, and it's way too far away. So I don't know what's going on, but yeah, man, I'm fired up for hunting season to roll around. My first trip, and I've just gotten off of a real, a bunch of different trips. So winding down here for a little bit, but I'm going to Canada in late September, going to Saskatchewan to shoot snow geese and cranes. And then I come home, and I'll just hunt at home through the fall. I don't have anything extravagant planned this fall. We'll hunt all our stuff until, beginning of January. And then my older son and I, we always go on our man's trip somewhere. So, we'll go to the Boot Heel and then Arkansas or Tennessee or Oklahoma or somewhere down south and hunt down there some. And then we always go somewhere in February. I don't know where we're going to go this year. Some years, a lot of times we go to Mexico in February. So we'll see if that happens this year. And then, after that, you're on the spring snow goose hunting. And man, it just, hunting season just seems to get longer every year, which is not a bad thing.
Right.
No. Yeah, you can really start sprinting it out. I really only have one more question for you, and I actually have a ton of questions for you, but I'm just going to ask you one. I'm really trying to get more into, I guess, being a better chef and whatnot. And one thing you had on your page was, you broke down your gumbo recipe, which looked real nice. But is that kind of your go-to dish there, or how do you like to prep all these ducks that you're putting on the table?
Man, we're huge foodies. My brother and I, and then several of my really good hunting friends. I mean, we love to cook, and so we cook duck all kinds of different ways. We love duck. But yeah, typically the first thing I do when I get to duck camp every week, so I'm usually there for 5 days, some weeks 4 days, and then home for 2 or 3 days. And the first thing I do when I get there is make a big old pot of gumbo, and that way, if anybody's hungry, they've always got something quick to eat. And, we have one blind that we call Heaven. A lot of people have seen it on TV and in articles and whatnot. And we've got a full kitchen in there. So every day, we make kind of a brunch. Well, every day that we hunt there. Even a lot of days we don't hunt there. We'll go there just to eat breakfast or brunch, and so usually we're eating 2 meals a day during duck season. We'll eat kind of like brunch, and then we'll have dinner. And so kind of our 3 main duck recipes, although we do it a lot of other ways too, is duck gumbo, which it's actually duck, chicken, and sausage gumbo. But, it takes a bunch of duck. We probably use about 10 ducks in every pot of gumbo, and that's just breasts. So it'd be 20 breasts, and if they're kind of shot up, I don't put that stuff in there. I'll cut it out. And then you guys may have seen this recipe on RNTV or somewhere, but we do a cast iron blackened duck breast with like some sort of fruit reduction sauce. So it might be wild plums that we picked at the farm, or it might be blueberries or tart cherries, or, we'll do some sort of a fruit reduction sauce with blackened duck breast. And that's probably my favorite way to have it. And then we do duck poppers, which, we do it with the whole breast, and put usually like a candied fig and a jalapeno and some cream cheese on there, and then wrap it in bacon. And we cook in the oven more than we cook it on the grill anymore. Throw it in like a 500-degree oven for about 9 or 10 minutes and let it rest for 5 and slice it. And it's really good too. In fact, that's our kids' favorite meal. They'd rather have that than a Big Mac, for God's sake.
That's awesome.
I think I probably would too, man. That sounds real good.
Oh yeah, shoot, we love to cook, man. We cook all kinds of stuff.
Awesome. Well, all right, man, we really appreciate you giving us some time. I know you're just back from being on the road and probably got a million things going on. And So we appreciate you making some time for us and for our listeners. And we encourage everybody to check everything y'all got going on at Habitat Flats and keeping up with Mow Marsh. And they can follow you on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. And we wish you guys a lot of luck this year. And again, we appreciate your time. And we'll be definitely keeping track of what you guys got going on throughout the fall.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. And I hope everybody has a good, successful season this year. And, it just always brings a lot of satisfaction to me personally when, guys come up to me and they're like, man, the Invislab, it's just been such a game changer for my dog. It's so much more comfortable. Or, gosh, I love the Invisman or the Invisalign or whatever the case may be. It really has helped me have a lot of success in this one spot or whatever that, whatever their stories are. I love hearing guys' stories about how, we made a product that made the quality of their hunting better, way beyond the money and all that stuff. It's just cool to know that you're helping people experience the same things that I ultimately want, which is going back to those 3 core things, to be concealed and comfortable and mobile.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Definitely can relate to that for sure. So, Dan, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, we've been on for an hour, so we got to let them go. But no, I appreciate your time, and we might have to have you on here again because there's a lot more questions I got. And, have a happy 4th and enjoy your freedoms of America, my friend.
All right. You guys too. Thank you.
We'd like to thank Ira for joining the show and giving us a few minutes of his time. Busy guy, got a lot going on. So I definitely appreciate that and enjoyed the conversation. And, Dan, I think it's although a much smaller scale, I could kind of relate to what Ira was saying in the sense that, our little piece of whatever it is that we've got here with HP, we've kind of built this from scratch and started it from nothing. And, I can remember the days when we first were releasing episodes and seeing the download numbers come back at and I would be excited if 5 to 10, 20 people downloaded the episode a day. I thought that was pretty cool. And to see kind of how we've grown, I could see how when you build something like that, it'd be hard to kind of let go in any capacity. So I commend him for doing that and doing it for the right reasons. And I still think that there's a lot of good to come from Mow Marsh and their relationship with, Higdon and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of cool information from Ira on that conversation.
Yeah, and that was, I just really enjoyed talking to him. I have so many more questions for him, even being a hunter and being a vet, and there's just so much going on there, and a really cool guy, like he said, and we talked about it a little bit. Just got back from a great hunt with his son, and we didn't even talk about the species over there that they got into, really, and some really beautiful ducks and swans, and that whole trip, they both took a stag on it, and just a great experience. And like you said, when it's time to give it up, and you put your business up against your kids, it's the wife's making good points. It's hard to do anything but go that way, and he gets to stay super involved and doesn't have to. He can kind of delegate, it sounds like, a little bit. So good for him. And, just a great guy, great conversation. And if you guys haven't checked him out, check out his Instagram, check him out on Facebook. He's really active, and check out some of those recipes. 'Cause I looked at that gumbo and I'm looking to make some of that this year. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. Can never get too many good gumbo recipes. So sounds like a winner to me when he was describing it. That's for sure. All right, man. Well, what else do you got for us here this episode before we wrap it up?
This is 89. We're only 10 more away, right?
Yeah, we're getting
episode 100.
Getting danger close.
Yeah, we'll have some details out shortly on this. So we'll get it finalized and get all the prizes figured out and get ready to go and keep going forward. Man, we are barreling towards that September 1st opening. So
yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah, man. It's That's what I'm saying. It seems like this summer, for whatever reason, is going by really fast. I mean, the fact that we're in July already is kind of crazy to me to think about. And, pretty soon we're going to be talking college football kickoffs and goose hunting and early season archery and all that kind of stuff. So definitely my favorite time of the year is coming up. Just got to get over the hump of these dog days and kind of get there. So you got anything else you want to hit here before we wrap it up?
No, man, I need to go wash this ink off my hands.
All right. Well, you go wash the ink off your hands, and I will take a minute here to thank the sponsors of this week's show: Gunner Kennels, Hunt Hickory Creek, Camp Chef, Black Rifle Coffee Company, and Southern Oak Kennels. Guys, we say it every week, but please support the companies that support the show. And definitely check out the discount codes on the HP Outdoors website. 10% off at Dunn Sporting Goods, 15% off your order, Black Rifle Coffee Company, 10% off your order with White Rock decoys, and also a discount on your custom HP Outdoors 737 duck or goose call. So definitely take advantage of those if you're in the market for some new gear or anything like that. I think with that's going to end it for this week's show. So let's go ahead and put a bow on it. All right, hope you guys enjoyed episode 89 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. We'd like to thank Ira for coming by the show and spending a few minutes with us. Definitely check him out across all the social media sites. Definitely check us out, hpoutdoors.com. Head over to iTunes, drop us a 5-star rating and review. Come over to the Facebook group. Find out how you can win a Sitka Hudson jacket. I'm going to be giving away one of those real soon, in addition to our 100th episode giveaway. So a lot of stuff going on over there. Come check it out. You won't be disappointed. So for Dan, I'm Josh. Till next week. Take care.